Good morning. Welcome back to Business M. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. All right, I've been waiting for this man for quite some time now. Mr. KAMILI is in the studio. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. All right, let's get back into it, therefore, and talk about what it is that we're supposed to talk about this morning.
Right.
Now, you do know that your president just the other day went to Jamaica and Barbados. From there, we pretty much talked about it. A lot of Kenyans went online and had a lot of memes about your president being in Jamaica. I don't want to get into that because of political correctness. But this morning, let's make sense, therefore, of those visits with Mr. KAMILI, who's joining us in the studio for the next, 12 minutes, isn't it? Okay, let's get into it, therefore. So when I look at it, the question is, why Jamaica? I mean, let's start from there. I mean, it could have a lot of options. And from that perspective, I'm looking at the GDP, and you will see that we are 5 times stronger than Jamaica. But your president goes there and says, well, we'll come up with bilateral ties that are going to see these two nations come together and support each other economically. Do you think it makes economical sense for a country whose GDP is 5 times lower than ours for us to go there and say, well, we need to support each other?
Well, what I may deduce from that trip is that the president was just making a cosmetic appeal to the people of Jamaica and equally his citizens back in the country. And there was really nothing impactful in terms of the economy to Kenya. In fact, in my view, it would be more advantageous to Barbados and Jamaica that the president of Kenya visits them. Well, our history with Jamaica particularly traces back to when our founding father, President Kenyatta, had a very close relationship with Marcus Garvey. And that was even, talked about by the PM of, the Prime Minister of Jamaica. And he talked about it and said there was a very close relationship between President Kenyatta and the original President Kenyatta and Marcus Garvey,
isn't it?
Well, I think that was just to cement and to put an authority to the fact that there was a relationship between
the relationship between the Kenyattas back then, isn't it? Really between Kenya and Jamaica,
I would look at it from that perspective. It wasn't really a Kenyan relationship with Jamaica. But even if it were a relationship between Kenya and Jamaica, we can really not pick a few things and put to, perspective and say we have gained this based on the relationship between Kenya and Jamaica for all that period of time. And also maybe we can talk about the interpersonal skills exchange between Kenya and Jamaica. That would be the biggest motivation, in my view, the president would be looking for. But in terms of the economy, nothing concrete.
Nothing concrete, isn't it? Let's therefore, Mr. KAMILI, just have a look at it. Now, if you look at exactly what Jamaica exported in 2017, they actually exported 1.34 and imported 5.28 billion US dollars. They had a negative trade balance of 4.49 billion shillings. But you said that this is a place we can peg and say, well, this is an importing country. Can we give them something to import, therefore, from Kenya?
Well, then it is upon the president and his team that went to Jamaica to, analyze and get to put in consideration what commodities Jamaica would be looking for, because it is to our advantage that Jamaica is an importing country. Then Kenya must look into its industries and realize that we have a few things that we can export to Jamaica. Now, it is upon the president and his team to establish what really are the commodities we can, export to Jamaica and the Caribbean. But we have to look at it equally from the point that the president really didn't go there on a business trip.
It looks from our perspective. I mean, when we sit here, what would you call it really, Mr. KAMILI?
I'll just call it a holiday of some sort, because I didn't find it equally as important as when, for instance, if you're in the company of a colleague and you're discussing the economy of the country and you're told the president has traveled to China, you'd give it some weight. And
that's a lot of weight, isn't it? That's a lot of weight. I mean, we do know the last one, Raila Amolo Odinga and him, that was really weightier than anything.
It was a serious trip.
And there was a lot of predictions on exactly what's going to happen in China, isn't it?
Very much so. And you look at what the president did in Jamaica that he hasn't done in all these other countries. The president went to a stadium and was running around and greeting the Jamaicans. It was sort of a PR and a basis of building relationship between Jamaica and Kenya.
In Kenya, really.
A cosmetic relationship.
Yes, this is a cosmetic relationship when we look at it like that. Okay, now, this is very interesting though. Now, one of the things that they actually signed that we can say this is really good, that we're going to have direct flights from Kenya to Jamaica, Kingston.
it would be...
How many Kenyans would want to go to Jamaica?
It would be very important that we look keenly into that based on our experience with the direct flights from Kenya to New York.
Yes.
You know, Kenya, in my view, in a very hurried manner, initiated the flights that go straight into the U.S. And it is clearly right.
You say exactly what in the report, just in the financial report the other day, they're actually saying that these are the flights that have cost the airlines some money because it took some money to introduce them.
It was anticipated, and
but then at the end of the day, they were not actually cost effective.
Everybody stated that clearly, that the president is going into this just to please the world. He's going into this to set a record that during his tenure, Kenya moved straight from Jomo Kenyatta to JKIA. But that was a very wrong step because the airline did not have the capacity to sustain that kind of big improvement in their industry. So even equally right now, the president will make such statements that are alarming and sensational just for the media and for the camera, and equally for Kenyans to be excited and say, oh, our president has decided that we're going to fly straight to Jamaica. But how many Kenyans, as you asked, would fly to Jamaica?
We want to go
for what
to Jamaica.
purpose?
And for what purpose, really, isn't it?
That brings me back to my other idea where I was asking you, what really are the commodities Kenya would wish to export to these other countries?
Yes.
I have the idea that if Kenya put a lot of weight and a lot of consideration to professionalism and build a base of professionals where we could be exporting professionalism, we could be exporting teachers, doctors. You know, we don't export commodities as such, the software of professionalism. And we export doctors, we export teachers, we export these other important professions that we are sure countries like Jamaica and Barbados do not have the capacity to train us at now. Then we'd be a lot ahead. But when we are looking at it from the hardware and thinking how we want to export tea, we want to export agricultural products and horticulture, it will be very difficult because in some countries like Jamaica, they equally don't even have the capacity to sustain importing as much as that because it will be hurting the economy.
It will be hurting the economy because we're way ahead of that. We're 5 times stronger.
I tell you.
Even when you look at per capita, they're just talking about $9. We're talking about 15. Isn't it?
The tragedy.
That's why it is. Okay, now this looked a bit fishy. Sport, when you say, yes, we do know that when it comes to world sport, Jamaica and Kenya are actually up there. So when you say for countries that are actually up there in the world map when it comes to sport, that that's supposed to support each other, what does it mean, supporting each other by sport or in sport?
Well, I don't understand what exactly Kenya and Jamaica would do to support each other in terms of sports, because it is known to everybody that Jamaica does very well in sports in the world. It is known equally that the athletics in Kenya is top-notch. But the problem is there a properly designed manner in which Jamaica and Kenya would relate to ensure that sports in Kenya and sports in Jamaica is given some push forward? Now, if at all we agreed that the president was in Jamaica and signed a deal with Jamaicans, that there would be exchange programs and between Kenya and Jamaica that would give a chance to our sportsmen and women to train and to get new experiences. We know that Jamaica does very well in short races and Kenya does very well in long races. Now, to the advantage of a sportsman, we would be getting some experience from Jamaica on what they do on short races. And equally, Jamaica would be getting some experience and some knowledge on what we do on long races. And equally, if it's about weather and other physical factors, then we would be giving them, Jamaica, a chance to come to Kenya and do their training here. We'd equally be giving ourselves a chance to move to Jamaica and see what really they do. But I didn't see the president and his team touch really on that. It was just on the face of it. It was just on the face of it. We support each other. They support what basis?
But on what basis of support are we talking about?
And this is very important to the public. That when our leaders go out there, or when our leaders are representing us, they don't represent us for the purpose of showing us they're representing us. They should indeed represent us by giving us facts and figures of the representation they're giving us out there. We might not know if the impression they're giving out there is totally different from what we have here in Kenya. So unless you have facts and figures that we are analyzing here today, then we'll be able to know. Then we'll be able to settle down and actually say that this is exactly how we're going to benefit. You remember that one of your colleagues in one of these media stations asked the president I think some months back, that we'd want to see the contract of the SGR between Kenya and China. and really what was in it. And the president promised he would do it. Later, there was a clear statement that that would not happen. Now, fact is, Kenyans don't have a lot of information on what their leaders are doing about their situation. In fact, you're told we are going to sign a deal with the Republic of China, and the deal is to build this and that, but we really don't know what are the facts, what are the figures for how much you're going to do this, and what extent this is going to impact our economy. If Kenyans would be, given a chance to understand really what they're involved in, then we wouldn't be having these problems of suspecting that our president goes to Jamaica not for an economic trip, but a holiday trip.
But it's just a holiday trip, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. Since Barbados was next to Jamaica,
right,
he went there.
And I like that because, in my understanding, I don't think the president had it in mind to go to Barbados.
To go to Barbados.
But because Barbados is just close there,
yep, I mean,
you said, okay, let me give
just
them
cross over.
What you'd call it.
And see exactly what's happening there, isn't it? But Richie, just if you allow me, the only thing that actually we came out of that is that now we were having the doctors actually come from Barbados, since they have a really good health sector.
Right.
We're having our doctors going to intern over the other side, and we'd also have their doctors also cross over this side and exactly talk about the health sector and see exactly how this can actually improve. Would you say with our problems in the health sector right now, I mean, we're not talking about lack of capacity, we have capacity, isn't it?
I love the idea.
Yes.
And the manner in which they wish to execute it.
Yes.
They, as opposed to the manner in which they executed the Cuba-Kenya relations about the health
yes.
the healthcare. In the Cuba instance, the president opted that we bring in Cuban doctors to solve medical problems, which really, in my view, was not a wise move, maybe just to please the Cuban government. But this time around, they're saying that we need to do exchange programs between our students in Kenya and the students in Barbados, and equally the professionals in Kenya and the professionals there.
Yes.
What Kenya needs is not, what Kenya lacks is not professionalism in the health center, and the healthcare. What Kenya lacks is the capacity, as you're calling it.
Yes.
The government has not taken keen interest in building capacity in the health sector.
Yes.
If at all our doctors were given the capacity they require, we have enough doctors in this country to help us deal with the pandemics and the diseases that we're having in this country. And equally, if you notice, most of the Kenyan doctors that are working out of this country are doing very well out there, and they're appreciated across the globe. So if we are to give it a chance, the way the president has looked at it this time round, where we'd be giving a chance to our doctors to see what happens in these other countries where they have good health care system, then we'd be way ahead of the rest of our African partners and our African colleagues.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Kamili.
Yes, sir.
Getting told that our 15 minutes have actually just expired.
Wow.
Interesting though. There are issues I want to really talk about this, but you're coming back. You gotta come back.
No problem.
For 30 minutes though.
No problem. Thanks a lot, bro.
It's been a pleasure.
Great.
Anytime.
Thank you.
All right, that's exactly what we had for you this morning on Business AM, as we talk about exactly what you expect from your president and whether actually the model for traveling and where your president travels to impacts the weight of the money in your pocket. Guess what? My name is Simbalaja Charles Kiag. This has been another edition of Business AM. Guess what? I'll meet you at 1 p.m. for Metropole News at 1. As usual, let's meet online for a better conversation. Hashtag Business AM at Metropole TVKE at Charles_Kiage. Good morning.